webinar, everyone. My name is Glenn Lubert, and I am the CEO here at Practice Talk. Today's webinar is entitled 8 Steps to Getting and Retaining New Patients with our special guest, Dr. Drew Stevens. To give you a little bit of a background on Drew, he's a world-renowned practice management and chiropractic marketing coach. And I recently had the opportunity to speak with him about his passion for transforming struggling doctors into wealthy professionals by helping them discover how to run their practice like a business. He is one of the rare practice management marketing experts who has more than 30 years of practical experience. With advanced degrees in strategic marketing and branding, he works with physicians and medicos such as chiropractors to help them implement a process that makes their practice more efficient. He runs one of the most prominent practice management firms in the U.S. and is the author of 6 books. Before we get started, I wanted to let each of you know that if you have any questions at any time during the webinar, you can submit your questions in the GoToMeeting question box displayed on your screen. And we'll make sure if we don't answer your question today, we'll get back to you directly with an answer. We also have special offers for everyone at the end of the webinar, so make sure you stay tuned until the end. And now I will turn it over to Drew. Welcome, Drew.
Thanks very much, Glenn. I want to thank you for having me today, and I really appreciate Practice Stocks for having me here and having me on the webinar today. And I want to thank everybody for attending. And I will give you a good amount of information in the time that we have together. And as Glenn said, if at any time you have any questions whatsoever, let us know. My screen is going to be off for the benefit of your being able to see the slides in the webinar to help you out. But I'll ask Glenn to stop me if there is a question. I'll try to take questions at the end. And if I don't get your question during the seminar, and you do have one, I'll give you some contact information at the very, very end so that you can get in touch with me offline, which sometimes might be better because people have some personal information. I also have something special to share with you at the very end of this. So I'd like for you to hang on as long as you possibly can. I know this is the meat of the day. This is probably lunchtime for some of you, and you're about to go see other patients. But what I'd like for you to be able to do is, 1, stay until the end. Number 2 is I'd like for you to be actively involved, be in the moment. So I want you to be thinking about things. I want you to be able to take some notes. And most importantly, the third thing, I would like you to take one thing after this webinar. I don't care what it is for right now, because each and every one of you are in different levels of your practice. Each and every one of you has different degrees of ideas for your practice, different business models, different business ideologies. So I'd like you to be able to take one thing, and I'd like for you to put it into action. That's all you need to do. When I talk about acceleration, I'm talking about action. When I talk about acceleration, realistically, what I want you to be able to do is move from the stands as a spectator, saying, I would have, I should have, I should do this, I should do that, I should do this. You wind up shitting all over yourself. And what you want to be able to do is you want to get into the field of play. You want to become active, and you physically want to be the athlete on the field. That's what's going to set you apart. So what I want to do with you today is I want to help unlock the full potential of your practice. I truly want to give you the notion of several ideas that is going to move your practice from low volume, low revenue to higher patient volume and higher revenue as quickly as I possibly can. These ideas are based upon a brand new book that Glenn mentioned just a few moments ago, known as Practice Acceleration. And the premise of this particular book is helping chiropractors maximize revenue and volume. However, this book could be used in any particular practice. It could be used in dentistry, podiatry, all general practices. And I've worked with general practices for 30 years. And the concepts here are from 30 years of active research in the field, active coaching and consulting in the field, and actively involved revenue. In fact, in the last probably 15 to 20 years, we've achieved over $1.6 billion in new revenue for the clients that we create. So what I want to share with you right now is simply this. If you're looking at your particular practice as it is right now, your practice, and one of the things that I find that many organizations don't do, and when I say organizations, depending upon where you physically had gone to chiropractic or medical school, they don't teach you some of the things that are most prevalent that are in business today. And when I say prevalent, I truly believe that your practice is very much a business. And one of the things that many of the colleges and universities do is they'll provide you with a course just prior to matriculation in the boards, and that is in business planning. And so you sit there and you write a business plan, which is a template that SCORE gives you, which is an organization under the Small Business Administration, and you write this business plan. You have no idea what you're doing. You write a mission statement. You write a vision statement, and then suddenly it's 2, 3, 4 years later, and you wonder, what in the heck happened with my business? What in the heck happened with my practice? The reason being is because what they don't tell you is that you're running a business. And in order to run that business, there are a myriad of different things that you have to do in order to make that business sustainable. The reason being is that 98% of most small practices will fail in the first 5 years, just like any business is going to fail in the first 5 years. It's going to fail because of lack of leadership. It's going to fail because of lack of proper communication. It's going to fail because of the lack of a good look and acuity towards financial achievement and financial sustainability. And it's going to lack because of one of the most prevalent things in any business, and that is marketing. In order to actively be engaged in your practice, you have to be an active marketer, and no one will ever share that with you. And last but not least, you also have to have a good level of patient service. In a sense, vis-a-vis customer service. The purpose of your practice has got to be the patient. And if the purpose of your practice is simply about profits, if the nature of your practice is just simply the opportunity to make more money, well, think of it this way. You can't make more money if you don't have more patients. So what I want to share with you in a little bit of time that we have today is how to get those patients in order to get more money. And I want to do that with something known as the Big Mac effect. Now, I say that because not all of you like fast food, but it was the easiest methodology for me to provide you with an analogy. And I tend to like analogies, and I tend to like visualizations to help you understand some of the concepts and some of the ideas that I want to share with you today. So the Big Mac concept is based upon the notion of 3 very important things. The Big Mac concept is based upon marketing. Yes, all of you, every single one of you is in the marketing business. As a matter of fact, if you don't like that word, and I'll ask you right now, how many of you on this webinar today don't like the word marketing and don't like to market? I'll ask you to raise your hand and say aye. Now, you're in mute-only mode, but trust me, I can hear you right now. And raise your hand high and say aye. That's fine. Then I'm going to give you another notion of this. If you don't like marketing, then I'd like you to think about the fact that you're in the relationship business. If you don't want to be in the marketing business, then you need to be in the relationship business. And so what I want to help you is understand how to build better relationships in this Big Mac concept so that you can get more patients. What that's going to include are things such as your brand. In building your relationship is based upon your personal brand. Yes, believe it or not, each and every one of you out there today actually has a brand. And I want to tell you a little bit about what that brand is and how to manifest it. In addition to that, the second concept of the Big Mac effect is administration. You have got to have severe office skills. You have got to have a perspicacity of doing your patient notes. In the chiropractic world, there are SOAP notes. You've got to do your report of findings very, very well. You've got to know how to build, how to code effectively, and know when your account receivables are going to be there. But most importantly, your administration is based upon having good people in your employ. And I'll share with you a concept of hiring the right people in your organization. It's based upon my doctoral work. Secondly, you have got to look at your patients. You've got to look at it from the perspective of patient focus. You've got to look at it from the perspective of what's in it for the patient and how to ensure the fact that the patient is the true focus of your practice each and every day. And last, it's about the amount of paper. We pass too much paper around, and I understand in the age of healthcare laws, such as HIPAA, there is an inordinate amount of paper. However, in today's world, there are EMRs that are being used, electronic medical records, and it's making the life of the doctor a little bit more efficient because you can do more with less paper. And then last but not least, it has to do with the customer or, as I mentioned before, patient service. What we're talking about here is the true service of the organization, treating that patient like gold, knowing that you have the proper protocols in treating that patient like gold, and doing the proper things to give them that level of support that makes it more effective each and every time. And so what we want to be able to do here is engage with you and illustrate to you how that Big Mac effect is going to help your particular practice. So let's start with the very beginning, and let's start with the relationship end of it, the marketing end of it. My attitude, it's all about action. And again, it's about taking you from the stands and into the field of play. Here's a quick case study. I happen to have a doctor. His name is Jonathan. Jonathan calls me, and he is hysterically crying. Dr. Drew, I need your help. I am seeing less than 5 patients a week, and I am not having any money whatsoever. I have $180,000 in student debt. I happen to have over $55,000 in debt from this particular practice. Because of the 5 patients, I'm actively engaged in delivering Domino's pizzas part-time because I need to help a family of 3. It's myself, my wife, and my 2-year-old. Help me, help me, help me. First question out of the blocks is, what was he doing to do any marketing? And he said, huh? True story. And I said, Jonathan, what are you doing to market yourself, to build relationships? And he says, well, I put a sign outside that said, accepting new patients. Folks, that is not the manner in which to build your organization. I want you to be thinking of 2, I mentioned visuals before, so think of 2 visuals. Think of it from this perspective, either a bar stool with 4 legs, or I want you to just think of 3 circles intersecting. The bar stool itself, if you think of the seat of the bar stool, that's a marketing strategy. And I want you to think of it. So if you're drawing a little picture for yourself, you might want to think of it as marketing strategy. If you want to think of the piece of paper that you have and you want to draw the 4 concentric circles, whichever is easiest, then just at the top of the page you can write marketing strategy. However, there are 4 legs to that bar stool, just like that there are circles that are going to intersect in a moment. In order to build relationships, you've got to be thinking just like big retailers and other large organizations. Large retailers, such as Apple, such as Microsoft, such as Levi's, such as the Gap, such as Old Navy, are constantly engaged in a myriad of activities every single day. For doctors, that means that they have to have people know that they're out there. I'm not suggesting that advertising is the way to go, but there could be at least 16 to 17 different activities that you might be engaged in on a daily basis. They could be speaking engagements. They could be writing articles. They could be providing blog posts. It might be a website that you have. You might think of getting referrals, building alliances with other medical practitioners or even attorneys for that matter. The fact is that the more activities you do, the more awareness that you build. Let's face it, the more people understand who you are, the more they're going to become attracted to you, which is the second leg of the bar stool. And if you're building circles, there's one circle called activities, and there's another circle called awareness. And connect those 2 circles, if you will. Understand that when the activities are fast and furious and are consistent and relentless, what's happening is people become aware of you. I mentioned the Apple Store just moments before. Think about this. The busiest store in any large departmental mall today is the Apple Store. At least $1.5 billion worth of revenue comes from the retail outlets. Here's the most amazing thing. People walk into that Apple store. It attracts people like there's no tomorrow. People want to know what's going in, and others tend to follow, which then comes to the third leg of that bar stool and the third concentric circle, which is then community. See, what happens is you're building the awareness, and when you build awareness, you're building community. People find out about you. And what that is now doing is that the more aware you become and the larger the community that you're beginning to build, your prospective patients then become your marketing avatars. Because what then happens is they start telling other people about what it is that you do. Chances are that if you have a Mac, and I'll ask you to raise your hand once again, how many of you own Macs? If not, how many of you have an iPhone? Raise your hand. If not, how many of you who don't have a Mac, don't have an iPhone, have an iPad, or at least have a tablet? Raise your hand. See, I see you out there. And see, the thing is that the interesting thing is you've gotten that because of the awareness that Apple has done. Even if you have a Samsung phone, even if you have a Kindle Fire, you got that because of Apple's ability to build awareness for the tablet. And so you're shaking your head right now saying, I didn't think of it that way before, and you need to do that because the more community you build, the more relationships you're going to have. And when you build those relationships, here comes that fourth circle, and here comes the fourth leg, and that is simply this. You then become a brand. So your brand has then been built off of the concept of this large community. Don't believe me? I want you to think of 3 things right now that I'm sure if you don't use, you definitely have heard of. Facebook, Twitter, and Vine. Facebook, Twitter, and Vine have all been built without any, absolutely zip none nada advertising. All of these were built because of activities that were done and the community that allowed those brands to manifest and grow simply because of the things that they've done. That's the way that you want to be thinking of it. So you need to be thinking that your puzzle, as it were, is to create 3 things. When you're building this paradigm that you want to for brand, you've got to be thinking about 3 very interesting things. You've got to be thinking about value. When we talk about value, which is why your marketing puzzle in building this paradigm has got to include that, is because your value is built based upon what you bring to the customers, what the patient believes that you bring to the table. That is built based upon differentiation. See, when you look at building a relationship, people will come to you not because of the fact that you're a chiropractor, not because of the fact that you're an endocrinologist, not because of the fact that you're an orthopedist, but you do something different that no one does, and you handle things differently than the way that you do. That then becomes the brand. And so what you want to be thinking of is how then can you build this brand with something different? In other words, stop calling yourself just a chiropractor or an acupuncturist, and understand this. I'm not asking you to not call yourself a doctor. It's just the fact that when you say what you are, you tend to stereotype it. And so your messages, in order to build the relationship that you want to build, have got to be based upon these 3 criteria. Number 1, it's your value. Number 2 is it's what do you do that's different that your competitors don't do? And yes, you do have competitors in the area. You know you have competitors in the area, but here is the most important aspect of this, and that is this. You have got to focus on a very specific target. You have got to have an established target market to do this. See, you've got to be narrowly focused, and the narrower you are in your market, the better off you're going to be. So what I would encourage you to do is to look at your demographic, who you have the most fun with, and who you have the most passion for. See, one of the things that I do and I have a passion for is working with doctors. And so my target market for my business is that demographic. And then what I do in my marketing messages, in my relationship building messages, is build those messages in this paradigm, this puzzle, as it were, to help provide the value and provide the brand. that's what you want to be thinking of. So it is not about putting up signage that then says, hey, come to me because I'm accepting new patients. But it is about doing the right things and creating enough activity to build the awareness. Folks, this doesn't build awareness at 40 miles an hour or 80 miles an hour, depending upon where you are. People pass it and it's gone, and you wonder why you're not getting the return on investment. But when you're building the activities, you will get people more aware of you. Let's talk now a little bit about administration, and I'll ask to see if any of you have questions while I'm on this at this particular point in time. But as I segue into this, a couple of things on administration I'd like you to understand is that when you look at administration, it's about several different things. First and foremost, it's about organization and time management. You really have got to be better organized in your time approaches. One of the exercises that I'd like you to be able to do, and in thinking about this and maybe giving you a little bit of a backstory here, is to think about what you do during the day. I want you to be thinking about if you're not physically with a patient, I want you to think about this for a moment. What are you doing during the day? And if you're not certain what that is, in other words, if you're busy, but it's nothing more than busy work, then I'd like you to take a sheet of paper. And every 15 minutes or so, go back to the sheet of paper. And this also could be once an hour, too. But I'd like you to write down what you're doing every 15 minutes during the day. See, I have another doctor that told me how busy he was and that 8-9 hours of the day went by very, very quickly because he was so busy. But he was only seeing roughly 40-50 patients a week, which not a whole lot. And so what I said to David was, let's track where you are every 15 minutes of the day. Well, let's face it. Here's the deal. He was very good at reading the newspaper. He was very good about going through emails. He was very good about checking his LinkedIn accounts and Facebook process. He was very good about talking to his staff in the office, talk to his wife every now and again, and we call a friend. And believe it or not, that was the first 2 hours of the day. Hadn't seen a patient and hadn't done anything to build any relationships whatsoever. So I would encourage you to go out most definitely and start looking every 15 minutes at where you're spending your time and alter so that if you're in what I call downtime and you're not doing notes and you're not doing billing and you're not doing something directly affecting the ROI of the business, then do something that directly affects the ROI of the business. Second, you need to actually have the proper people working for you. This is an absolute must. Had another doctor by the name of Patrick. Patrick had this woman. She was a younger woman, but he had this woman working for him by the name of Brie, B-R-E-E, kind of like the cheese. And here was the deal. I would walk into the office. I would see Brie. I'd walk in and then say, "Hi, Brie. How are you? Have a nice day." And she'd say with a very stoic face, "The doctor is busy. Please have a seat." And that was it. That was the only interaction. Went to another office where Ron worked as an associate doctor under the guidance and mentorship of another doctor, and he still has a woman by the name of Kathy working with him. Kathy loves wearing these Bluetooth headsets looking like Lieutenant Uhura from the original Star Trek episodes. But Kathy's desk does not face forward, or Kathy will not face forward. Kathy constantly faces skewed so that she's looking at her computer monitor because she's doing schedulings and on the phone with others. Here's the problem. Kathy is never looking at any patient coming in the door, never registering any new patient, and here's the problem. Everybody that's on the phone is more important than somebody that's standing in front of her at that particular point in time. Completely dismissive. I'll get to customer service in a moment because I want to share another story with you. But the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you can't get somebody who's focused on delivering a proper method of communication to your patients, you're pushing them away. And so the only way to hire right is to hire for people's skills. You've got to hire for skill set and not behavior. You have to hire for talent and not behavior. What's behavior? The fact that they're gregarious and they love to get along with others, and the fact that they like to joke around a lot. Here's the thing. Can the person do this particular job if their life depended on it? In other words, could that person do the coding and building? Could that person answer the telephones? Can that person take proper patient records and move them into files? You've got to make certain that you're answering all these questions when you're doing the hiring of these individuals, because otherwise they truly need to be terminated. Having the right people on your staff is going to be very effective for you, and that gets me to this last part, because having the right person is then going to help you with delegation. See, not enough of you doctors, especially if you have if you are sole practitioners, are very good at delegating stuff. And here's the reason why. And it's interesting, I'm in your world. I have a 7-figure practice. We do anywhere between 1.6 and 1.8 million every single year. But I don't have employees. You have staff. Many of you have staff. My desire was to build a 7-figure business without staff. That's all I wanted to be able to do. Staff to me is, in my world, I don't want to be an employer. I don't want to have to deal with human rights, human relations issues. I don't want to have to deal with the hiring and the firing, and because of the nature of my job, which is almost 80% coaching and consulting, as well as marketing, it's easier for me to run solo. Many of you don't have that opportunity, but here's the deal. I delegate a lot because there's things that will just take my time and don't need to take my time. At anywhere between $1,500 and $2,000 an hour, if you look at my hourly rate in working with people, at least that's the value that I bring. I would much rather go to a virtual assistant, or I'd much rather give it to an associate to handle certain things. And I learned this a long time ago, folks. Many moons ago, I had worked in corporate America, and I realized even back then, I was making anywhere between $75 and $100 an hour. And here's the fact. Which is most appropriate for you? And even if you look at copays and you're making $50 for that appointment in a copay, and up to as much as $200 to $300 an hour in your particular position, if you take your annual salary that you draw from the business and divide that by 50 weeks and divide that by 8 hours, that is your hourly rate. And if you look at that, which is more appropriate for you? To be sitting at your computer trying to design a ridiculous business card, or trying to get a brochure out for a speaking event that you might be doing, or sending it in to somebody like an intern for $10, $15, $20 an hour, or perhaps giving it to someone else that has the opportunity to do it for you and can get it done in relatively half of the amount of time. It's a lot easier to do it that way, and unfortunately, too many of us focus on the wrong things and not on the right things. You need to delegate to the right person. You need to have a virtual assistant, and I have 8 or 9 different virtual assistants that I deal with, or you need to give it to an associate or an independent contractor. But you don't need to do it. You need to handle the administrative concept the best way that you physically can. And now let's also talk about report of findings. Here's the thing that has happened with certain report of findings, especially in the chiropractic market. I've asked repeatedly with certain individuals, when you're conducting a report of findings, how long do they last? Some last 5, 10 minutes, others last 15 to 20 minutes. The fact is, when you're conducting a report of findings, just like when you're doing initial prognosis on individuals, it costs more. People are going to have to pay more for it. Insurance will have to pay more. Certain cash programs will have to pay more. So take the time to show the value by extending that time by anywhere between a half an hour and 40 minutes. You want to give the individual as much information as they can and the treatment methodologies. The reason why I say this is because I know many people that will rush through it, give the report of findings. It takes roughly 5 or 6 minutes, and then literally the next 25, 30, 40 minutes is then spent on the financial situation. Well, I think there's more value that is spent on the information given to the patient rather than how much that patient is going to pay you. So that's extremely important. You also want to check on your scheduling. You want to look at your rescheduling. The reason being is because if you have on and off days, you want to make certain that you can look at your office hours and see where your most volume is coming from, because you need to segment some time for your relationship building. You also, from a monetary perspective, really need to look at your rescheduling procedures, because I know many doctors that have cancel and reschedules and don't go back and have the staff rebook. That's lost money to you. And you have to think about the fact that if you have 10 people rescheduling or 10 people canceling throughout the day, and you're at a $50 copay, well, you have now lost, with those 5 people at $50, $500 of revenue going in and out of your pocket immediately. So you have to do callbacks. You've got to make sure that those people are on the schedule, and it's got to be a must for your staff, because if your staff isn't doing the callback, I'm going to tell you this right now, it's got to be actionable for your staff, because if they're not doing it, the patient isn't going to do it. It's just not going to happen. So when you're looking at the administration of your business, you have to look at it from 5 very clear perspectives. That is systems, processes, time, team, and money. These are the most important areas of your practice to focus on at any particular point in time. And now I want to leave you with this, and that is patient service, the old customer service approach. From Marriott to the Four Seasons, to the Cleveland Clinic, to Washington University, to a myriad of other practices and organizations out there, from those that you have come and known to love to others that you don't even know and love. Customer service has really got to be the pinnacle portion of your practice no matter what. You have to treat them right. And I truly believe that customer service is broken down to 3 very particular things. It's people, it's processes, and it's property. What I mean by people is you have to treat them right. What that means is that when you look at customer service, patient service, there's an internal and an external flow. Internally, you have to treat your staff right, because if you treat your staff right, you have great leadership approaches, they are going to treat your patients with the most kind respect possible. I happen to have had an experience not too long ago where I'd gone to an optometrist, I'd gotten new contact lenses, they weren't fitting right, and I can't tell you the amount of times that Ashley, the front desk receptionist, called me to let me know where the contacts were, what the issue was, when to come back and reschedule. This wonderful woman was out of sight, to the point where I actually wrote a note of commendation to the doctor because of her. When they treat you right, when they treat the customer right, when they treat the patient right, then the patients then go ahead and start talking to other patients. They go online and they write reviews, they go to relatives, they go to friends. And folks, with over 1 trillion Google searches done per day, what is on those Google searches are reviews. And here is the thing. People are using referrals, they're using social media, and they're using Google as methodologies to find out about your practice. No one today is using the Yellow Pages. And so to the extent that you can help bring your brand into existence and awareness because of the patient service that you provide, that's what's going to get you the most accessibility to the market. Second, you need to make it easy, and you need to make it acceptable and meaningful. Many practices that I visit with all have those ridiculous windows when you get to the practice. I understand that you have to, quote unquote, keep confidential patient records. But here's the deal. Many practices, or at least the culture of those practices, has the windows, but it's not uncommon to walk in and the office manager, the receptionist, the nursing staff are very busy talking about other patients. They're very busy talking about you as the doctor and some of the methodologies that they like and don't like. Most recently, I had gone to the audiologist for an annual exam, and when I had gotten there, truly from my meeting, they not only were behind the window, but here's the deal. They were all sitting on desks in the window having a kibitz contest because the doctor wasn't around, and so they could sit and just chit-chat with each other, and that's what I came in with. It was like coming into a campfire. My attitude is that you go in, you see these windows, there's a clipboard there, it's so impersonal, you sign in, and then eventually 6-7 minutes later, Thing from the Addams family comes out, grabs the clipboard, and eventually Lurch comes to the door and then says, next. It's too impersonal. Make the processes more customer-centric. And here's the other thing. When you're with your patients, build the process that there's a protocol that you're going to be familiar and comfortable and knowledgeable with the patient and sharing information. And last but not least, it then comes to property. What I mean by property is having spaces in front of your particular retail establishment, if it is retail or a medical building, physically available for patients. In other words, that they don't have to walk miles to get to your front door. Make your website easy to use. Make your contact form easy to use. Make the information easy to read. And most importantly, probably twofold. Number one, make the phone easy to be heard and answered. In other words, the phone shouldn't ring any more than 2 or 3 times. People should answer it as Dr. So-and-so's office. This is Catherine. How may I help you? And I'm not saying and suggesting that every single call need to be bubbly and effervescent like a glass of champagne. But your staff should be personable, they should be professional, and they should be patient-centric, which also means that there are some offices, because we are in a world of dress-down days, casual days, there are some offices where medical coats are not being used. There are some offices where people are just wearing polo shirts or they're just wearing khakis. I don't think that those are bad ideas, but understand something. Staff should have name tags, and staff should have things that identify who they are. I was in 2 offices, one where they were wearing khakis and polo shirts, and no one introduced me by name. I had no idea who was a patient and who was staff. That was one. Number 2, I happen to have had a situation many years ago where a gentleman walked in, was wearing a lab coat, and started to do a procedure on me. I did not know that he was the doctor. I had never met this guy before, and all it was a quick examination. And so he walked in and never, ever introduced himself, and supposedly this was a top-flight doctor. You can't be a top-flight doctor if you don't have good patient-centered ways of doing business. You will have less business if you do that. Remember, the patient is not an interruption of your practice. They are the purpose of it. And it always begins with a positive first impression. So you want to have a culture that really supports what it is about. It starts and stops with you. And if you want to have a good patient service protocol, you've got to ensure that the culture supports that. I promised you that I was going to provide you with a special gift at the very end. Well, here's what I'd like you to be able to do. As I mentioned, I just wrote this book known as Practice Acceleration, How to Help Chiropractors Maximize Revenue and Increase Patient Volume. What I'd like you to do is visit the website greenbranch.com and do a / with the word acceleration. You will receive a 20% discount at checkout. All you need to do is enter the code CHIRO2013. That's CHIRO2013, and you'll automatically get a 20% discount. If you'd like, on checkout, send some information through the comment key, and I will personally sign the book for you. If you have any information that you want to share with me, if you have any other questions beyond today, here is a methodology to get in contact with me. You can reach me through my private line at 877-391-6821. I'll be happy to take your call, and I return all calls within 90 minutes. Also, please feel free to email me, and you can go to my website, which is stevensconsultinggroup.com, and there's a contact form there, and you're more than welcome to send me an email there. I want to leave you with 3 very quick thoughts. Number 1, you've got to be building relationships. You've got to be active, you've got to be consistent, and you've got to be relentless. 2, You need to have proper administrative protocols. In other words, do things to delegate to others, and you want to do things that lessen your labor, create less stress, and give you the opportunity to work on income. And last but not least, use your patients as marketing avatars. And the best way to use them as avatars is to create proper patient protocols, proper service, proper culture, and proper communication that allows you to do so. I want to turn the wheels of the engine here back over to Glenn and the folks at Practice Doc, but again, I want to thank them wholeheartedly for having me here. I hope the information that I was able to share with you was of value to you, and God bless you, and I hope you use it effectively.
Well, thank you, Drew. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Everybody who, right, everybody who either joined us late or wants to share this with someone else in the organization, I want you to know that we're going to have this webinar on demand within the next week, and we'll email each of you to let you know when and where you can watch it online. As you know, Practice Doc offers multiple services, and we're going to offer as a free special for everybody who attended the webinar is that we have a Practice Doc website and SEO review report. This is a report that we usually charge $40 for, but we're going to give away to 25 of the attendees that either email me at solutions@practicedoc.com or answer yes on the report question on the short survey that you'll get when you leave the webinar. This is a great report. It's 15-plus pages, and it details why your site is not ranking well on Google and other things that you can do on your own for free to fix what's going on. Once you have the report ready, one of our SEO consultants will contact you, and then they'll be able to run through the whole report with you and give you understanding of how you can rank higher on Google and other search engines. Once again, that report's for the first 25 people that requested today. And you'll be able to request all the items that we offer at Practice Doc, as well as from Dr. Drew on the survey that will pop up after the webinar. So make sure you fill that out. And once again, I'd like to thank you for joining us, and thank you, Drew, for your great advice. We had a few questions, but we don't have much time left. We're going to be able to answer those after the webinar, and Dr. Drew can get back to you then. And if you have any other questions, keep them coming, and we'll respond to you over the next few days. This concludes our webinar. I hope each of you have a beautiful day.